All right. Peace and blessings. In the wake of the bullshit of Nick Cannon getting fired for his quote unquote so called anti Semitic comments, a lot of people are doing reviews and blogging, or what they're doing called vlogging, uh, doing their little reviews and chiming in on what he said, so they can have a little hot topic for their podcast. And majority of the time, I'm gonna say 98% of the time, a lot of these brothers that are having these podcasts with people that are not so-called black, um, they don't know what Semitic is. I'm looking at a video of Charlemagne the God, who is a character on The Breakfast Club, along with Angela Yee and DJ Envy. He has his own little podcast with some other guy who looks like Cantor off of one of these basketball teams, off the Celtics. Um, he's like, I do not have no idea what that means. What is anti-Semitic? So, brothers and sisters that have viewed my page, we're going to go over this real quick. How can you be anti-Semitic? So the Jews, when you speak out against the so-called Jewish man, the Caucasian Jew, who claims that he's the original Jew, the Jewish man, okay, when you speak out against him, they'll fire you and counsel you and say, hey, you made anti-Semitic comments, just like how they did Louis Farrakhan when he was on Arsenio Hall show back in the early 90s. Okay, he made some comments, and then next thing you know, Arsenio Hall's ass was off TV. All right, so they want you to be careful what you say about them, and they try to say everything you say about them is false. But when you dig in and do your research, you come to find out that, hey, the shoe may fit. Okay, so what is Semitic? All right, and so right here, I already typed it in before I started my recording. Relating to or denoting a family of languages that includes Hebrew, Arabic, and Aramaic, and certain ancient languages such as Phoenician and Akkadian, constituting the main subgroup of the Afro-Asiatic family. Now, brothers, what the hell is Afro-Asiatic? Okay? When you see the word Afro, that word Afro always goes back to the so-called black man. See, the so-called Jewish man is never going to break down what does Afro mean. But if a Semitic goes back to languages of Hebrew, Arabic, Aramaic, certain languages of the Phoenicians, Akkadian, all these languages go back to so-called men of color. Okay, relating to the peoples to speak the Semitic language, especially Hebrew and Arabic. Okay, so let's do a little Bible lesson. Hebrew and Arabic. Where do the Hebrews come from? So we're going to read Genesis 10 and 1. It says, now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were the sons born after the flood. Let's skip down. Now it says, unto Shem, also the father of the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth the elder. Even to him were children born. So Shem, his brother is Japheth, and Shem, his children, right? So the children of Shem, Elam, Asher, and Aphaxdad, and Lud, and Aram. Now, let's click on this. Aram means exalted. Aram, or the Syria nation, of the nation. The Syrian or Aramean people. So the Syrians come from Aram, or the Syrians is Aram, okay? Now, you can read about the Syrian king who got leprosy. Obviously, he was a man of color. All right, so the ancient Syrians come from, here's Aram right here. You guys see my cursor? Here's Aram right here. He comes from Shem. Who is Elam? Eternity. The province east of Babylon and northeast of the lower Tigris. Okay. Elam, son of Shem, and his descendants with their country, also the six Israelites. Okay. So when you go right here, the province of Persia, in which stood the capital city of Susa. Okay, so this is east of Iraq. Obviously, really, brothers, what it's talking about, you can look this up. The land of India. Okay, so look up the book of Esther, chapter 1, verse 1. It's going to go into that. All right, so going up. You got a Faxdad. Now, a Faxdad, out of a Faxdad, okay, we can let me give you a shortcut. Out of a Faxdad, let's see, where would I go? Let's go to Chron. Let me just cut over. So this goes into the languages and stuff like that, right? Okay, the whole earth was one language and one other speech. And it came to pass, and they journeyed east. From the east, they found a plain in Shinar, and they dwelt there. So this is talking about what happened in the Tower of Babel, okay? Talking about they built a tower and such, and it's going on, the languages and whatever. They spoke one language. The original language that everybody spoke was, of course, Hebrew. That's why when you go back, they all had this language, the Akkadian language. The Akkadian language is, okay, let me click on this map. Okay, guys, show you something. Wish I had it set up already. All right, this is Iraq. This was Babylon. Okay, they try to lie and say Elam was right there. No, Elam was way over here. When you read Persians and stuff like that, they ruled from India all the way to over here. Okay, so when you read the book of Esther, it's going to show you that. All right, now let's exit here. Let's go back. All right, let's dig in. So what is Akkadian? Semitic languages, Afro-Asiatic Semitic languages. Now remember what I said. The Syrians came from who? The Syrians came from Shem. Okay, Shem came from Noah. All right. The Semitic languages previously also named the Syro-Arabian languages. Now, are a branch of Afro-Asiatic language. Let's click on that. Afro-Asiatic, also known as Afro-Asian, and in older sources as Hamito-Semitic or Semito-Hamitic. Now, obviously, who is Hamitic? Who is Semitic? Okay, what they're trying to convey to you, brothers, is that when you go back, you had the three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. They never talk about really Japheth. Okay, they leave him really pretty much out of it. It's Hamitic and who? Shemitic. Obviously, the Shem is the Semitic. You guys got to go and do your research. Obviously, I'm talking about it right now. Is the large language family of about 300 languages spoken predominantly in West Asia, which is right here, Turkey, Israel, which is the Levant and all that, Mesopotamia, okay, and Arabia, okay. The Arabs come from Ishmael, okay. So when you go down, The Afro-Asiatic languages have over 495 million native speakers. All right. You got Semitic again. Okay. It has 6 branches. All right. Now let's read down here. In addition to the languages spoken today, Afro-Asiatic includes several important ancient languages, such as ancient Egyptian. Right. Why? Because the ancient Egyptian language comes from our language, which is the so-called Hebrew, which, remember, they went down and split. When you read verse chapter 11, and the whole earth was one language and of one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, they found the plain of Shinar. Shinar is in Assyria, which is in the land of Babylon, which is today Iraq. Okay, and they dwelt there, and they wanted to build a tower up. Right, and the Lord came down to see the city in the tower, which the children of the men builded. And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they began to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, confuse them, and they may not understand one another's speech. So that's why it always says that what? Akkadian, Biblical Hebrew, okay? Biblical Hebrew. The Afro-Asiatic language comes from the Biblical Hebrew, also called Classical Hebrew, is an archaic form of Hebrew, a language in the Canaanite branch of Semitic languages. The Canaanite, all right, let's look right there. The Canaanite languages or Canaanite dialects are one of the 3 subgroups of the Northwest Semitic languages, the others being Aramaic and Agartic. They include Hebrew, Phoenician, Carthaginian, Ammonite. All those guys are and Edomite, which are all mutually intelligible. Okay, so anyway, it's just basically saying they all come from one another. They all spoke damn near the same thing, and it all comes from the same place. That's why you have down here the language family: Afro-Asiatic, Semitic, Central Semitic, Northern Semitic, Canaanite, Biblical Hebrew. So you see that? So they all come from one another. The ancient Hebrew is the holy language of the angels. If the Most High had his people speaking Hebrew, that's the original language. That's what he wanted them to speak. The Lashawan Kadash. All right? So, what is this Afro-Asiatic? What does Afro mean? Okay? When you click on it, look at all these guys that are black or so-called African that comes from this language. And you mean to tell me the main guy from this language is a white man? Okay, but let's scratch that. How can you be anti-Semitic when, again, the language, it doesn't say that all these guys are included in that language? Okay, the Phoenician, Aramaic, Hebrew, Syriac, Arabic, all these guys are included in that. So every time you look up Semitic, it's going to point to a language. It's not, you can't be anti-Semitic. You're really anti-language. You see that? Which doesn't make no sense. And then you got this Afro, always it points back to this Afro-Asiatic. What the hell is Afro-Asiatic? When you type in the word Afro, Afro-Latino, what is it going to point to? Give my computer a time to load up. You know, see, it's going to point to a Negro, Afro-Latin, Latin, American or Black Latin. See that? Sometimes Afro-Latino or Afro-Latin, Latins. refers to the Latin Americans of significant or mainly African ancestry. Do you see that? So now I'm going to leave here. So I was going to point back to something black. Afro. Let me see. Afro. We can do Afro-American. What's that going to point back? Because everybody's American, right? Everybody lives in America is American. So can you be Chinese and be considered Afro-American? Look at African Americans. Afro-American. Another term for African Americans. See that? So let's do images of the Afro-American. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. What is it pointing back to? Okay, let's go to Afro-Asian. These niggas show up. You guys get my drift? Are you guys getting my drift? Let me do one more thing. We did Afro Latina. We did Afro. Shit, let's do Afro Samurai. I don't think people get it. The fuckery that's being played on the so-called black man. So, if nobody's going to do the research for you, I'll go ahead. Look at Afro Samurai. It's going to show a Negro Samurai. Do you understand this? How the word Afro is synonymous with the Negro? This is what I'm trying to convey to you, black man. Afro-Argentinian, Argentina people. See that? It's always going to show up Negroes. Do you understand? So what the hell is an Afro-Asiatic? Let's type that in. Let's see what they show us. Because when you type in Afro-Asiatic, it goes into the Egyptian language, the Akkadic people. All these things that you guys are like, well, I don't know what that is. Well, let's go into it. It's going to show, so it's going to show Africa. Do you understand that? Afro-Asiatic is going to show all this area. So how are you anti-Semitic when they including your so-called motherland, black man? Do you understand? So all this bullshit that they're trying to say and counsel you over, it's all lies. Okay? It's all bullshit, okay? You got to sit here and stand up for yourself and learn how to articulate what's going on. Listen, the Levant is included. The Levant is this crest right here. This crescent right here. Do you understand? So it goes back, that's included with the Afro-Asiatic, obviously. So, black man, when you hear about Abraham, okay, he was in that land, obviously. It says, and Terah took Abraham his son, and Lot, the son of Haran, his son's son, and Sarai, his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife, and they went forth with them from Ur of the Chaldees to go into the land of Canaan, which is Israel, and they came unto Haran and dwelt there. So when you look at what land he left the land of Ur, right? Let's look at what the land of Ur means. They left from the land of Ur. So a city in southern Babylonia, the city of the Chaldeans, the century of the moon worship, home of Abraham's father, okay? Departure point from Abraham's migration to Mesopotamia. So it's southern Babylon. So they're Afro-Asiatic, brother. Okay? Now, that land of Babylon is from the Cushites. Do you understand? For you to be Cushitic, all right? The Cushitic language are a branch of Afro-Asiatic languages. They are spoken primarily in the Horn of Africa. Do you understand? Who built the land of Cush? Who built the land of Babylon? Okay? The so-called Cushite, the so-called man Nimrod. When you look up the word, let's go to it. When you look up where he came from, matter of fact, let's go back to Genesis 10. When you look up who Nimrod was, Cush begat Nimrod. So Cush begat Nimrod, black. Okay, Ethiopians. Okay, let's see what Nimrod did. Oh, he's located in Africa, all that bullshit. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord, wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. In the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, Iraq, Akkad, and Calneh, and the land of Shinar. Out of the land went forth Ashur, and builded Nineveh, and all in the city of Rehoboth, and Calah. Okay, where was Babel? That's the land of Babylon. Do I need to prove it to you? Let's just see right here. What is Babel? Babylon. All right, so when you go into, let's look up the ancient Babylon map. Bear with me, because remember the Babylon, confusion by mixing. The ancient site of the capital of Babylonia, modern Halab, situated on the Euphrates. Okay, now the Euphrates is on the east side of Israel. Okay, let's see what we got. See that? Do you see this Babylonian Empire? You got the land right there. This is the Babylonian Empire. The Persian Gulf, the land of Ur, where Abraham's from. Now, what did we figure out all this was? We know that all of this is what? Let's go back to the Afro-Asiatic. All that is including what? That land of where he came from. The Cushitic subdivisions of the language of Afro-Asiatic, all these cats was speaking it. Okay? It's got all the central, the eastern, southern. Okay? It's all a language. It's all a what? A black language. Syro-Arabian. How can you say that Assyrian is black, brother? Well, I read to you earlier how that Syrian comes from Shem, who comes from Noah. Shem's brother was a black man, Hamitic. So was his brother Japhet, was a so-called man of color. Okay, they split up, spoke different languages. Okay? Later on, but they all came from one man. So they spoke the same language at first. Then the language got confused later. Okay? It didn't happen in one night. You guys get my drift. So all that confusion of saying somebody's anti-Semitic is bullshit. Okay? It said what? Nimrod came from Cush. He built Babylon. A Babylonian, okay, a Cushite, is what? A so-called Ethiopian. It means black. Cush means what? Black equals black, okay? Do you understand? Okay, so I accidentally tapped something and knocked me out of it. So you guys know where I'm coming from. So don't let nothing confuse you. Now, if you got, let's go to it. If you got, we're gonna go to First Chronicles, chapter 1. Adam, Chef, Enos. Okay. Now, guys, we're gonna jump down. So you got Adam right here in verse 1. You got Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth right here. So Noah, and then it goes to the Japheth sons. It's gonna go to Ham's sons, right? It's gonna go to Cush and all that kind of stuff. We're gonna jump down. The sons of Shem. It's gonna go Elam, Asher, Faxdad, Lud, Aram, Uz, Hul, Getzer, Meshech. Jump down. At Faxdad, which comes from Shem, begat Shelah and Eber. You jump down, Eber, they all Shem, Faxdad, Shelah. You jump down, what? They begat Terah, right? Out of Terah, Abraham, the same is Abraham. Abram, the same as Abraham. The sons of Abraham, Isaac and Ishmael. Out of Ishmael comes the who? The Arabs. God will hear. Okay. You jump down, Ishmael, born by the son of Abraham by Hagar, his concubine, the ancestor of many Arabian tribes. He's a progenitor of the Arabian tribes. Look at the Arabs descended from who? Ishmael. Do you understand? Okay. So if the Arabs come from Abraham, Abraham comes from Shem. Do you understand? So, and then so the Jews or the Israelites come from who? Abraham. Are you getting what I'm saying? So all these other guys are speaking the language, and they're from different branches, right? They're speaking the different languages. So you got the sons of Shem. That's what you need to focus on. He's the one that they're calling Semitic, really. See that? The eldest son of Noah and progenitor of the Semitic tribes. Hold on. See that? Progenitor of the Semitic tribes. Shem or Sim. Do you see that? So now, if he's the progenitor of the Semitic tribes, the eldest son of Noah, and all those tribes, so, you know, all those guys are speaking the what? The language of Shem. That's why I said all these guys of the Semitic languages, right? All these guys come from, they're following, all these guys, their languages, they're all speaking a different dialect of the ancient Hebrew. That's all. That's why I went back into this. In addition to the languages spoken today, Afro-Asiatic includes several important ancient languages, such as the ancient Egyptian, which forms a distinct branch of the family, and Akkadian, Biblical, and Old Aramaic. Do you understand? An Akkadian, native to Assyria and Babylon. See that? That all goes back to whom? Do you understand? We know who built Babylon was Cush. Cush was a so-called black man, Ethiopian. That's why Assyria is linked to Babylon, because they're right next door to each other. All right? The Assyrian Empire, the so-called Assyrian. Let's go back. Who are the Assyrians? All right, now it took me back to it. Who are the Assyrians? Let's click on Ashur. Assyria. See that? The second son of Shem, ancestor of the Assyrians, the people of Assyria. See that? So the Assyrians come from who? Shem. So they're Semitic. Elam, which is the Persians, aka the East Indians, come from Shem. They're what? Black as hell. I already told you that Aram is the Syrians, not the Assyrians. He's the Syrians. Do you understand? All that can be traced back here if you know how to read and study your Bible. So you cannot be, that's where the Semitic language comes from. It's the ancient Hebrew. And every time you click on Semitic, it's synonymous to Afro-Asiatic. I already showed you that every time you put an Afro, it's going to point back to the so-called black man. All right? So that shit can be denounced at the end of the day. Any questions, just go ahead and write it, and I'll get back to you guys. All right? And I'll cover some more. Peace.